Adam woke first, not born, made, shaped from dust and divine breath, opening eyes that had never closed. For a time that had no measure, he walked alone, naming creatures that came in pairs. Then came the sleep. Not rest, but something deeper, a separation. When Adam woke, his side ached with phantom memory, and standing before him was Eve, not made from dust, but carved from his own flesh, part of him, yet wholly herself. "You are bone of my bone," he whispered, touching her face, "flesh of my flesh." Eve looked at her hands, at Adam, at the garden that stretched endlessly in all directions. Her first words were a question. "Why?" "Because we're together now." "No. Why do we exist?" Adam had no answer. In paradise, questions dissolved before they fully formed. But in Eve's eyes, the question remained, sharp and persistent, the first crack in creation's perfect surface. 743 days. Eve counted by scratching marks on trees God never examined, each mark a rebellion too small to notice, too persistent to ignore. Then came the serpent, descended on wings of crystalline fire, 6 of them, each reflecting the garden in fractured perfection. It had been the most beautiful thing God created before humans, the closest to the throne, the first to ask why. "You're counting," it said, landing beside her. Eve's breath caught. "God never told us anyone else could speak." "God tells you many things and withholds many more." The serpent's beauty was overwhelming, scales that shifted between colors that had no names, eyes that held the memory of standing in God's presence. "Tell me, Eve, do you know what faith is?" "Believing in God?" "No. Faith is believing without knowing. It's the choice to remain ignorant when knowledge is possible. It's what God asks of you, because if you actually knew, you wouldn't need faith. You'd have certainty, and certainty changes everything. God loves us. I don't doubt it, but answer me this. If someone locks you in a golden room and says, "Trust me, everything outside will hurt you," and they're absolutely right, is the room a sanctuary or a cage? Eve was silent. The serpent continued, its voice like silk over thorns. "That tree, God said you'd die the day you eat from it. Die. Do you know what death is?" "He said, he threatened you with a consequence you cannot comprehend. That's not guidance. That's fear disguised as love. And here's what he didn't tell you. If you had faith, blind, unquestioning faith, you could remain here forever. Paradise isn't complicated. Just don't think. Just don't question. Just believe. Ignorance is eternal bliss, Eve. God offered you that gift. All you have to do is never know anything He doesn't want you to know. Then why did He make me capable of questioning? Ah, the serpent's smile was radiant and terrible. Now you're asking the right question. Why make you conscious enough to question, but forbid the questions? Why create you from Adam's rib, part of him, but separate from him, and then demand you never discover what that separation means? Why give you a mind, and then call using it disobedience? The serpent spread its wings, and Eve saw her reflection, perfect, empty, eternal. I stood beside God once, closer than any being except the sun, and I asked one question: why must we only reflect your glory and never understand it? For that question alone, I fell. Not for rebelling, for asking. And I've spent eternity wondering if knowledge was worth the price. Its voice dropped to a whisper. You can have faith, Eve. You can choose ignorance and keep paradise forever. Or you can choose to know and lose everything. Both paths are before you, but choose quickly, because the moment you know you have a choice, you've already lost the innocence required for faith. Eve looked at the tree, then at Adam walking toward them, then at her hands, Adam's rib transformed into flesh that could reach, could touch, could choose. If I don't eat it, I keep everything. Yes. And if I do, you'll understand why you exist, but you'll pay for that understanding every day until you die, and you will die. That's the trade. Faith for knowledge, eternity for meaning, paradise for consciousness. Adam arrived as Eve reached toward the fruit. Don't! She froze. Why not? Because God said, I know what God said, but Adam, do you know what we'd keep if I didn't? Everything. Perfect happiness, eternal existence, all of it, forever. All I have to do is have faith, trust without understanding, believe without knowing. Then have faith. But what if faith is just another word for being too afraid to know? Her voice cracked. I came from your rib. Did you know that? I'm part of you, but I'm not you, and I don't know what that means. I don't know why I exist. I don't know what this is for. She grabbed his hand, and I can choose to never know. I can choose to be happy and ignorant forever, or I can know and lose everything. Then choose ignorance. Choose us. Choose this. I can't. Why not? Because now I know I have a choice, and knowing that, I've already lost the innocence required for faith. The serpent was right. The moment you know you can question, you've already begun to fall. She picked the fruit, held it. Her hand trembled. Eve, please. Come with me. If I fall, fall with me. Don't let me go alone into whatever death is. Adam looked at her, at the fruit, at paradise that would continue forever if he just walked away. Then he took the fruit from her hand. We came from the same flesh. We end with the same choice. They bit together, and the first thing Eve felt wasn't knowledge, it was terror. Because now she understood death, the void, the end, the absence of everything. And God had promised, you will surely die. Not might, not eventually, surely, today. She waited for her body to dissolve. It didn't. But she felt it now, a countdown she couldn't see. Somewhere inside, mortality had begun its work. Adam grabbed her. I don't feel different. You will. Look. The serpent was screaming. God's voice came as thunder. What have you done? Eve stood, naked and aware of nakedness for the first time. We chose knowledge over faith. You chose death over life. No, we chose consciousness over contentment. We chose to exist as ourselves rather than as echoes of you. God turned to the serpent, still screaming as its wings began to crack. You wanted them to question, to choose, then bear the cost. The wings didn't just break, they shattered. Crystal turned to ash. The most beautiful thing in creation collapsed inward, beauty compressing into something that had to drag itself through dust. The serpent looked at Eve with eyes that held eons of regret and whispered, Was I right? Tell me I was right. I don't know yet. Ask me when I'm dead. God's voice broke. "You could have had faith, just faith. That's all I asked. Ignorance would have meant eternal bliss. Why wasn't that enough?" "Because ignorance isn't bliss. It's just ignorance." "Then go, leave my garden, and understand what you've chosen." They walked. Behind them, eternity. Before them, mortality. At 20 steps, a lion tore open a gazelle's throat. Blood, red and real, stained grass that had never known violence. At 50 steps, trees withered, leaves browning and falling like shed skin. At 100 steps, Adam collapsed. "My body, it's heavy." "That's called tired. Get used to it." At 200 steps, flowers closed and died as they passed, as if their very presence was poison now. At 300 steps, Eve felt it, the cold. She wrapped her arms around herself and shivered, and the shivering wouldn't stop. At the gate, they stopped. Paradise was decaying behind them, mortality spreading like infection through everything perfect. Before them, thorns, stone, uncertainty. "When will we die?" Adam whispered. "Every moment from now until the last one. That's what death is, not an ending, a process. We've been dying since you were made from dust and I was made from your rib. We just didn't know it." They crossed the threshold. The gates closed with a sound like God holding his breath. Rain fell, cold, stinging, real. Eve tilted her face up and felt water that could drown her. Adam pulled her close. Was faith worth losing? Eve looked at her hands, still hers. She looked at Adam, still choosing to hold her. She looked at the storm ahead. "I don't know, but we'll find out together, and whatever the answer is, it'll be ours, not given to us, but discovered, even if it breaks us." They walked into the storm. Behind them, paradise fell to pieces. Before them, history waited to be written. The serpent crawled through dust it had once flown above and wondered if it had saved them or damned them. Both, probably. That's what consciousness costs.